Former WWE superstar Mercedes Mone is reportedly scheduled to be at Impact Wrestling Slammiversary tonight. Will she be there on camera, or is she just there to support Trinity in her match on the show? Speaking of Slammiversary, a WWE superstar, now possibly former WWE superstar, could have quietly exited the company and may be expected to appear tonight on camera at Slammiversary. We'll let you know who that is. Jey Uso lays out Paul Heyman last night on SmackDown, with Roman Reigns' return set for next week's show on FS1. A former AEW star was spotted this week at the WWE Performance Center after their contract with AEW expired. We'll let you know who that is. Bobby Lashley returns on SmackDown last night and could be forming a faction with the Street Profits. The United States Championship Invitational kicked off last night. Details on that. Plus, Carlito didn't appear at Madison Square Garden last week, and we've now got an update as to what his WWE return plans actually look like. Shotzi shaves her head on SmackDown last night, and we'll give you an update as to the reason why. Plus, Grayson Waller calls out The Rock. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment, AEW, and Impact Wrestling Day. Bit of a hybrid video. Let's start off talking about Mercedes Mone possibly appearing at Slammiversary tonight. Now, she's scheduled to be in attendance, but maybe not on camera. Since leaving WWE last year in 2022, becoming a free agent at the beginning of this year, Mercedes Mone, formerly known as Sasha Banks in WWE, has wrestled 5 times. Unfortunately, though, in that 5th match, which saw Willow Nightingale win and become the inaugural New Japan Strong Women's Champion, it left Mone injured. But according to PW Insider's Mike Johnson, Mone is expected to be in attendance for Impact Wrestling Slammiversary pay-per-view tonight in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Impact, of course, is where Mone's longtime friend and former tag team partner Trinity, formerly Naomi in WWE, now performs. They, of course, left WWE together in 2022. Tonight, Trinity will get her first crack at Championship Gold with the promotion when she challenges Deonna Purrazzo for the Knockouts World Championship. PW Insider noted that Mone is expected to be there to support Trinity, with the belief being she's unlikely to appear on camera. Since debuting with Impact in April, Trinity has won all 6 of her matches, even teaming with Purrazzo on 2 occasions. Trinity and the artist formerly known as Sasha Banks captured the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships together shortly before deciding they'd had enough of their creative direction, or lack thereof, in the company. Independently, they both captured Singles Championship Gold on multiple occasions and have continued on their own successful paths. Notably, Trinity was in attendance when Mone made her New Japan Pro Wrestling debut, of course, at the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year, as well as when she made her in-ring debut at Battle in the Valley this past February when she won the IWGP Women's Championship. Now, keeping on with the Mercedes Mone subject here, we've got a bit of an update as it comes to her injury recovery. Of course, as I mentioned, she's been out of action with an injury since May, when she suffered an ankle injury during her match with Willow Nightingale at New Japan's Resurgence event. The match was the final of a tournament to crown the new New Japan Strong Women's Champion, with Mercedes originally slated to win the title before her injury changed plans. Since then, Willow dropped the title to Julia at the New Japan Independence Day show. In an update on Mercedes, per Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, even people who would need to know do not actually know the exact time frame for her return. Meltzer noted that the plan right now is for her to face Julia for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, but right now there is no specific plans or dates in place due to there being no word on her return from injury. So as of right now, there's no real update as it comes to her injury and her injury recovery. But tonight at Slammiversary, what do you think the chances are for her to actually be appearing on screen at the event? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below about that. Now, let's talk a little bit about Eric Young. Now, blink and you may have missed it, because Eric Young, since leaving Impact Wrestling last year, has actually been under contract with WWE, but nobody knew, and because he didn't really appear on camera that time, it was reported widely, but again, no one really knew what was going on. Back in November, Eric Young was written off Impact Television in a rather gory way, being quite literally murdered in a vignette. And at the time, it was reported by multiple outlets that he had re-signed with WWE after initially being released in April of 2020. With Chelsea Green also revealing later that she had re-signed with the company months before her return, it was plausible that perhaps WWE was just waiting for the right time to bring Eric Young back. When Young cryptically tweeted back in May about a big change coming up, speculation persisted that there was still no television or live event appearances for him. And now, another wrinkle in the story is this past week's edition of Impact Wrestling. It seemed to allude to Young in a scene featuring Impact President Scott D'Amore hunting for a mystery partner and asking someone on the phone if they could, quote, come back to life. Ahead of tonight's Impact pay-per-view, Slammiversary, there's some intel from some close to the show that fans may actually be able to see and actually be ready to see the return of Eric Young. According to Mike Johnson of PW Insider, Young has been spotted at the Detroit airport. Johnson suggests that this is yet another sign that Eric Young could indeed be returning at Slammiversary to team with Scott D'Amore, which would, of course, almost certainly mean he's been let go from WWE. Of course, if we get any more updates on this, we'll let you know. But what are your thoughts on Eric Young being Scott D'Amore's tag team partner tonight? And what are your thoughts on him being signed to WWE since late November and then just nothing happened? Is that because of Vince McMahon's return? Creative? What are your thoughts on all of it? And will it change some people's perceptions of possibly signing with WWE in the future? Now let's talk about SmackDown last night, and specifically Jey Uso continuing his path of war against the Bloodline. Ahead of next week's face-to-face with Roman Reigns to discuss rules of engagement, last night on SmackDown, Jey Uso sought vengeance. After taking to the ring to cut an emotional promo about, in part, how he's out to avenge the assault against Jimmy from last week that sent him to the hospital, the crowd was squarely behind Jey Uso. However, when Paul Heyman interrupted along with Solo Sikoa and joined Jey in the ring, they had their own message about what happened to Jimmy. According to Paul Heyman and then subsequently Solo Sikoa in his own short turn on the mic, each blamed Jey Uso for the attack on Jimmy. Taking it a step further, Paul Heyman taunted Jey, drawing attention to Jey's own growing mean streak and pointing out that he was beginning to seem more and more like a tribal chief every day. However, once physicality kicked off, the segment would see a relative rarity occur as Paul Heyman actually took a super kick from Jey Uso. In the end, Jey would stand tall as Solo and Heyman gathered themselves on the outside of the ring, awaiting the return of the Tribal Chief next week on SmackDown. As I mentioned, Roman Reigns will return next week on SmackDown on FS1. It's not going to be on Fox. But undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns may have not been present for SmackDown on Friday, but his cousin Jey Uso was. And as I mentioned, the next week, on next week's episode, the two will meet face-to-face to, quote, discuss the rules of engagement, according to the special counsel to the Tribal Chief Paul Heyman. Of course, following the events of Friday night, next week's meeting may somehow be more tense than their prior encounter. Last Friday, Jey Uso laid out the challenge to Reigns, declaring, "You better accept my challenge so I can whoop your ass one more time." Jey delivered another passionate message this week, making it clear that while he respects his family, he has none of it left for Reigns. Seconds after finishing his sentence, Heyman appeared with none other than Solo Sikoa by his side and proceeded to lay the blame for everything, especially the beatdown Jimmy Uso suffered last week, at Jey's feet. After declaring that nobody would ever forgive him, Sikoa echoed the sentiment, only to receive a series of chair shots and super kick for his trouble. Jey even saved a super kick for the wise man himself. Obviously, something tells us Reigns is going to have plenty to say about that when the cousins come face to face. We get even closer to SummerSlam next week on SmackDown on Fox. Now, last week, as I mentioned, it was the trial of the Tribal Chief, the trial of Roman Reigns in tribal courts, and the latest major plot point in the Bloodline saga took place last week in Madison Square Garden. To kick off the show, of course, the Usos took Roman Reigns to tribal court following his defeat at Money in the Bank. The segment ended up going very, very long. Of course, the segment ended up running way over time, lasting 40 minutes, which caused a lot of timing issues throughout the rest of the show on Fox. Now, the decision for the Bloodline segment to last as long as it did paid off, though, for the company, with the segment peaking at over 3 million viewers, which is the highest quarter-hour rating for a wrestling show in quite some time. And in an update from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, some people backstage in the company were questioning the decision to spend so much time on the segment, with the concern that the crowd in Madison Square Garden would want wrestling. The decision was made for it to go the way it did, with those who made the decision feeling vindicated based on the response from the live crowd even before the massive rating for the number came in. The segment was designed to set up an undisputed WWE Universal Championship match between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso for SummerSlam in Detroit. Of course, while not confirmed, it looks like that is indeed what is going to happen. Now, a bit of WWE/AEW news when it comes to this one, because this week we heard that Brian Pillman Jr. had left AEW and he could be on his way to WWE if recent reports are accurate. Now, earlier this week, it was announced that Brian Pillman Jr.'s contract with All Elite Wrestling had expired. Pillman has departed the company, joining Trench and Fuego del Sol as talents, who recently left the company at the end of their deals. In an update from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Pillman was reportedly training at the WWE Performance Center on Thursday, that being July 13. Obviously, this does not confirm that Pillman will join the company, as he may simply have made an appearance at the PC following the expiration of his deal. He might have been just visiting. Pillman would not be bound by a non-compete clause because it was a contract expiry rather than him being released from the company while under contract. WWE, meanwhile, has made no main roster signings so far in 2023 since Vince McMahon returned to the company, and the sale to Endeavor, of course, that upcoming merger between the WWE and UFC is expected to close later this year. But there might just be one signing that we kind of know about, and we're going to talk about this in just a second. But former WWE star Carlito has reportedly re-signed with the company. He was planned to have this big return last week at Madison Square Garden. Things were changed, so we may now be getting into the territory where people are starting to be signed again by WWE. And just to give a bit more of an update on Brian Pillman Jr. and this visit to the Performance Center, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has said that Brian Pillman Jr. indeed has been at the WWE Performance Center, but is still a free agent as of right now. Fightful Select has confirmed this past week that Brian Pillman's AEW deal expired in July after a 2-year full-time contract. The Wrestling Observer reported that Pillman was at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, and Fightful can confirm that he was seen by numerous people there this week. When Fightful asked WWE sources, they confirmed that as of now, Pillman has not been signed, but was working out at the facility. Fightful have been told that what he's doing resembles a bit of a get-to-know-you meeting, and that WWE did have immediate interest when he became available. Now, Fightful have also been told that things regarding a lot of the people they bring in are being kept quite close to the vest, but Pillman was in plain sight of many others at the PC. Fightful did say they reached out to Pillman, but they heard nothing back. So it wouldn't be too surprising, I guess, if we find out in a couple of weeks' time that Brian Pillman Jr. has indeed signed a WWE contract. But as of right now, he is still officially a free agent. Now, SmackDown last night once again saw the tease of possibly a new faction in WWE. Bobby Lashley made his return to SmackDown following an on-screen absence that began after AJ Styles defeated Lashley in the semi-finals of the tournament to crown the inaugural WWE World Heavyweight Champion. In a backstage segment, a car was seen parking outside of the arena in front of Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. The Street Profits were then greeted by Lashley, who stepped out of the car and then invited them into it with him. Lashley had been appearing on WWE programming quite infrequently around WrestleMania 39. Although Lashley won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the match took place on the SmackDown before WrestleMania. Lashley himself did not wrestle on the big show on either night of it, which he reportedly was unhappy with. He did appear with his Andre the Giant Memorial trophy, but that was about it. Bray Wyatt, of course, was set for a program with Lashley going into WrestleMania following Lashley's match against Brock Lesnar at Elimination Chamber. However, the program between Wyatt and Lashley was seemingly scrapped when Wyatt was removed from television and live events due to an undisclosed illness. Wyatt is still reportedly out of action due to that same illness and is still awaiting to get cleared. So what are your thoughts on this possible faction between Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits? Is this the beginning of a new version of the Hurt Business, or is this something else entirely? Let's talk about the United States Championship, and the United States Championship Invitational kicked off last night on SmackDown. One person who has advanced in the Invitational is Santos Escobar. Escobar will go on to face the winner of another four-way match that will take place on next week's SmackDown. Escobar won a four-way last night. The winner of the final match will go on to face Austin Theory for the United States Championship in 2 weeks' time. Escobar defeated AJ Styles, Grayson Waller, and Butch to advance in the tournament. Styles appeared to have the match all but won until a video came up showing Karrion Kross attacking Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows backstage. The distraction led to Styles being distracted enough to allow Escobar to get back in the ring, land a splash from the top rope to Waller, and pick up the victory. Next week on SmackDown, we'll see LA Knight, Rey Mysterio, Sheamus, and Cameron Grimes face off to determine Escobar's opponent on the July 28 SmackDown. The date of the final winners match against Theory is yet to be announced. They're saying it's 2 weeks' time, but we'll have to wait and see. Given how close it is to SummerSlam, it could take place there. Now, LA Knight, as I mentioned, he may not have secured the men's Money in the Bank briefcase on July 1st, but next week on SmackDown, he'll have an opportunity to get one step closer to championship gold. As I mentioned, Santos Escobar won his four-way match, but LA Knight could be set to win his next week. And do you think LA Knight is going to win the United States Championship, or at the very least challenge Austin Theory for it in the very near future. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, we spoke about Carlito and how there were plans for him to return to WWE TV at Madison Square Garden last week. Of course, that didn't happen. But ever since he made a cameo appearance at the Backlash event in Puerto Rico back in May, there's been a lot of speculation about Carlito making a full-time return to the company. Carlito has reportedly re-signed with the company, with his WWE return reportedly slated to take place on the July 7th edition of SmackDown at Madison Square Garden. Obviously, that show has come and gone, and there was no sign of the former Intercontinental Champion. Shortly after the show, PW Insider reported that Carlito had traveled to the Northeast for WWE, though he was not backstage at the Garden for the show. In an update from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Carlito's return was slated to take place on last week's show, with him set to be part of the SmackDown brand. Carlito's return ended up being cancelled due to how much the company needed to cram into that one show. The show ended up being a victim to major timing issues after the opening Tribal Court segment overran, taking 40 minutes rather than the scheduled 20. As I mentioned, those in WWE felt vindicated that they went so long considering the numbers and the rating. So in retrospect, some are considering it a wise idea that Carlito didn't make his return on that show, but the question then becomes, when do you think Carlito then is going to return? Shotzi is debuting a bit of a new look in WWE right now, and we have the reason as to why. After appearing in a backstage segment with Io Sky teasing the possibility of cashing in her Money in the Bank briefcase, Damage Control was in the building on SmackDown. The show featured a reminder video package of Bayley and Io Sky assaulting Shotzi backstage before Bayley cut off a chunk of her hair, keeping the trophy that went on parade last night. After a match between Zelina Vega and Bayley, which Bayley won, the Damage Control duo of Io Sky and Bayley celebrated at ringside with a clump of Shotzi's hair. It was as they went up the ramp, they were interrupted by a video of Shotzi, who went on to cut a promo and shave her head. Now, Shotzi's sister, Sean, was diagnosed with liver cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy, hence the real-life reason for Shotzi to shave her head. The GoFundMe for Shotzi's sister, Sean, can be found online, and obviously, we wish her the best in her recovery. And again, it's a real heartwarming reason and a real solid sign of solidarity for Shotzi to do that. So here's hoping that her sister recovers, makes a full recovery, and shout out Shotzi for showing the solidarity and support of her sister, and we wish Sean the best in her recovery. Finally, Grayson Waller, did he call out The Rock last night on SmackDown? And could this be building to something in the future? Well, we'll have to wait and see. On last night's SmackDown, the recent social media exchange between Grayson Waller and The Rock was specifically referenced. While sometimes social media exchanges don't make the airwaves, there was a specific point to make sure Grayson Waller having a back and forth with Dwayne The Rock Johnson was discussed. Waller appeared for a backstage interview and made fun of the fact The Rock was worried about him instead of his own family imploding every week. With Waller feeling as though Rock was just looking for the Grayson Waller rub, he noted that The Rock could come for him any time. Be careful what you wish for, Grayson Waller, having already featured in high-profile segments with Logan Paul, John Cena, Edge, and now engaged on TV with The Rock. It seems that the sky is the limit with Grayson Waller, backed up by reports of WWE being impressed with him last week. So the question becomes, could The Rock possibly make an appearance in the future to confront Grayson Waller on WWE TV or even at SummerSlam? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. But there you go, guys. That's the latest Impact AEW WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.